What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Boleros right before the Wednesday 4 games. So, quick turnaround time for us, but we wanted to get these two topics out of the way. No, we did promise that we will update these quote unquote standings re- regularly. So, the first round is ended. So, for today, it's just going to be me and Maui. Our old friend Sam Santos is busy with work. Again, we all have day jobs. We're all busy during the day, and because it's an upcoming long weekend, Sammy is swamped with work. So it's gonna be me and Maui for today, and we're gonna cover, as you see from the title, our power rankings and our not just stats MVP race. So if this is the first time you're listening to this episode, Maui does the power rankings. So just power rankings are not standings, people. So I want to make that clear. They are meant to be subjective. Just a lot of our commenters and our followers kind of dinged us for not being objective, but these are meant to be subjective. These are Maui's power rankings, so it depends on him who he thinks are the strongest teams, who he thinks is number one, number two. It's not based on standings; it's based on how teams are performing, based on Maui's perception, and the not just stats MVP. Again, if you're new to this, I make the not just stats MVP race. Uh, of course, I look at stats, but I also look at other things like team performance, importance to the team, leadership qualities, the eye test, and all that sort of stuff. So let's start. Let's start with Maui, and I'm gonna let's. So if you're not familiar, GiddiYap is our first official sponsor, courtesy of Maui Yap. Kung sana
Okay,
magpa-free na tayo, Maui, no? Medyo
huh?
lumalaki na yung community natin. Sana magpa-freebie
We'll
ka.
see in the future. Uh, so we're doing the power rankings again. Si Gab mentioned this is actually a representation of the current standings, in my opinion. How the teams are doing. This is not a prediction of how the rankings will end up in the future. This is how I see the teams right now. So let's start. My first pick is the UST Growling Tigers. As much as I want to commend UST for winning their first game, I still feel that this team is definitely at the bottom of the pack. Congratulations to UST. Congratulations to Nick Caballero for finally leading UST to their first win in the UAAP. They finally ended a 19-game losing streak dating back to last season. So yeah, maybe things will get better in the second round. What I witnessed during the previous game nung weekend was that Kenji Durendes finally had his breakout game in the UAAP. It's a welcome sight. Christian Manaytay and Cabanero continues to score in bunches. I think both of them are part of the top 10 in the points per game category. If you look at
Because
yung
no one else can score on their team.
yeah, because no one else can score in their team. UST is a better offensive team this season. That's backed up by data, by advanced offensive stats. But their defense has suffered a lot with Adama Faye still missing in action. The coaching staff, I think si Japs Kuwan was interviewed the previous day. He isn't sure if Adama Faye will still play. But according to him, they still have 15 players that they can depend on. But it's not looking good for me with regards to Adama Faye. The rumors looks like it's true. Maybe he isn't really injured. Maybe he's not playing. But it's a big blow for UST. Definitely not having that foreign student athlete. There are the lone team that do not have that FSA. And they were a better defensive team with the Damifaya last year. So that's a big blow for them. Any thoughts, Gab, on UST still on the bottom of our power rankings?
Yeah, I think I've made my thoughts on UST very clear in our previous episodes. I said they would be lucky to get one win, and they were lucky to get that win against FEU. I'm guessing we're gonna talk about FEU next, but yeah, for UST, I'm happy that they got that they got the monkey off their back. They're not gonna go 0-14, maybe 1-13 again, but let's see. But yeah, offensively, they depend on two players. You talked about Kenji Doremdes, Maui. I've seen flashes of Kenji Doremdes of what he can do driving to the lane, but it's only been in spots in the first 6 games for UST. It's good that he finally help the two other guys. Sana mas consistent na siya, no, in doing that.
Yeah,
And ako
definitely.
pa rin, for UST, I think same tayo, Maui. They should try more of their young guys also, no. They're highly talented recruits. I think SJ Moore has more to show than what he's currently doing. No? You can see he has an outside shot. He's very athletic. He's very fast. I think he can do some stuff on the offensive side of the ball, yung of the court, if given the opportunity. So that's just me. But yeah, UST got their first win because FEU, and we'll talk about them next, I assume, that because they played really horribly on offense. So UST yung were able to put up a bunch of baskets against them. But yeah, I would also put UST last. I mean, the first 6 games they've looked really terrible. And sige, Maui. Sunod.
Yeah.
Um,
So our next, you mentioned Gab FEU. If FEU would have won against USC, this could have been a different story. They started out the season 0-4 and finally racked up back-to-back wins, and then finally lost to UST to close out the first round. I think this shows yung inconsistency talaga ng FEU this season. Their offense is, if their 3-point shots are not going, it's still the same thing. Still the same story. If Cyrus Torres and their 3-point shooting is not going, then they're most probably gonna lose. I feel bad that they started 0-4 because we've been talking about this since the start of the season. Even before yung preseason, they can't start 0-4, 0-5 because yung room for error is not there anymore. Now they ended the first round at 2-5. I think this is similar to the previous season, last season. They could have had a 3-4. They could have salvaged the first round and ended at 3-4 and within one game from the fourth slot. But things didn't go their way. Unfortunately, they gave UST their first win. We're happy that UST finally got into the win column, but unfortunately, it came at the expense of FEU. What's concerning to me is Cholo Nuevo. We haven't had any reports if he's still gonna get back on the court this season. If you watch yung FEU games, most of the lineups that really worked, yung small ball lineup nila with Cholo Nuevo at the 5, and them losing him has really been a big blow. You can expect much from James Tempra, from Tempra and Ona, but they've been doing their job. Unfortunately, much like last season, their FSA has not been adequate enough to lead them to more wins.
not
Even
adequate
worse,
is very kind, Maui.
yeah,
That's very
yeah.
kind. Ang bait-bait ng description na yun.
I think he's worse than Tuchuete, to be honest. I think Gab also would share the same sentiments. Sayang for FEU. If they won against UST, their chances to make the Final Four would have been higher. But now they really have to win every game, I think, in the second round. Historically, the magic number to make it to the Final Four is 8-6. But FEU already has 5 losses. That means that they have to win 6 of their last 7 games to make the Final Four.
Highly
That's
unlikely.
looking grim to me. That's highly unlikely. But on the bright side, I think a couple of players have really stepped up this season. I think the LJ Gonzalez deserves credit for really stepping up his game this season. His scoring numbers have been more consistent. If I think I read somewhere yung 2-point shooting niya is north of 60%, if I'm not mistaken. It's just that yung Waterloo niya continues to be yung 3-point shot niya. So he was really balling out the past few weeks. He led the team to 2 wins by scoring key baskets in the clutch. But unfortunately, as I've mentioned, they probably have to win at least 5 of their games in the second round, and that's highly unlikely. So I'm putting them at number 7 on our power rank, number 6, second to the last in our power rankings this week. Anything you'd like to add, Gab?
Seven, Maui. Seven. We have 8
Yeah,
teams.
7. Sorry, 7. Yeah, I was correct. 7.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I expected them to be here. Losing to UST on Sunday looked so bad. And yung Amao, they just struggle on offense. When they can't get their shots to go, wala eh. You mentioned LJ can't really hit shots. The other players, Cyrus Torres, again, when he's cold, he can't. The offense for FEU just becomes so difficult. And again, I said it, you're just being kind to Muhammad Fatih. My God, how tall is he? 7'2", 7'1". He's getting out rebounded by a 6'4" Christian Manaytay and what, a 6'5" what's his name, Eko Laure. This guy can't even grab a rebound against players who are 9 inches smaller than him.
It's crazy.
That was my frustration watching the FEU and UST game last Sunday. Mo Fati just can't grab a rebound against much smaller guys. He can't even shoot over much smaller guys. He doesn't have a post move, and so many baskets in the paint he missed. The formula for beating UST, as Ateneo showed, and I think all of the other teams who have beat them have shown, just pound it inside to taller players. They're very small. They don't play anyone above 6'5". And the fact that Adama Faye, the only center, the only tall guy in FEU, couldn't take advantage of that just shows how unfortunate that FEU got him as their FSA for this season. Because he's really if Gio Chu is a consistent minus in the plus minus department for Ateneo, Muhammad Fatih, I'm sure, is a big minus for FU whenever he's on the court. My God, they just look so bad with him on the court, and it's tough because you can't really not play him because you do need a big guy to match up with the other bigs. Pero it's frustrating for FEU. Hopefully they have. Honestly, I think this season is lost na rin for FEU. You said it, Maui. 5 or 6 games they have to win in the second round. It's going to be highly unlikely.
4, yeah.
This is going to be tough for FEU. Okay, next. Number 5.
Next. Number 6.
Yung number 6.
We're getting confused.
Who this is.
Yeah, our number 6 team, in my opinion, is the UE Red Warriors. I think most of the people, including myself, might have overrated them when they had a hot start during the season. Teams have really caught up to Momoe and have really made Remogat's job a lot harder. I think losing Gerard Wilson was a very big blow. Losing that other playmaker and other defender was a big blow to UE. This team shoots a lot of three-pointers, so anytime you lose a playmaker, it's really a big thing. I think teams have really started also to do better coverage on Momoe. He's continuing to shoot a lot of shots from putbacks and offensive rebounds. But unfortunately, if you're a big, you have to shoot efficiently. And he hasn't done that this season.
He hasn't at all.
Yeah, he hasn't at all.
Any metric.
Yeah, but he's the but I think the bright side with the UA side, he's leading the Rookie of the Year race. So if he plays his 5 years, I think he has a high ceiling in my opinion, just because of his motor. If he works on his game, he works on his post game and this inside finishing, I think this can be a very good foreign student athlete for UE in coming years. It was a welcome sight that they had him. Imagine UE without Momoe. I don't think they would probably be even worse than USD, in my opinion. But unfortunately, I think they have reached their peak this season. Maybe they get a few wins against good teams in the second round. This team gets hot from the outside. And if you're talking about analytics, shooting three-pointers right now is really hot. if you make 3-pointers at a high enough clip, you can beat any team. But yeah, I think the best thing for you is really to prepare for season 87. Remogat is in the top 5 in the MVP standings. That's a welcome sight. They have a few players that have really stepped up also. I think si Cruz Dumont can be better in the future. And they have a lot of recruits coming in. So maybe it's time for them to prepare for the season 87. But they ended the first round, I think, at, if I'm not mistaken, also at 2-5. So much like FEU, they will have a hard time to make the Final Four since they have to win 5 to 6 of their next 7 games. Imagine, you have to beat, if you lose to UP, if you lose to NU, then you have to beat everyone else. That would be very hard. Most of the teams are looking to get wins. It's time for the crunch time. It's the second round. Every team will definitely be hungrier because all games really matter in the second round, especially since it's a very tight standing. But as of the moment, I really value them at number 6. Ahead of FEU because of that blunder by FEU, but still ahead also of UST. Since they I think that they have a higher ceiling.
Yep. And nawala na yung gulat factor ni Momoway, no? I think nung start
yung
ng season,
most talaga. That's a very good observation, Gab.
yeah. Kasi nung to start the season, I don't think anyone scouted si Precious Momoway. Again, he wasn't playing in the preseason for UE. And he kind of got a ton of numbers to start the season. But now teams have scouted him. They know his spots. And yun nga eh, the loss of Gerard Wilson has kind of forced Momoway to do a lot of playmaking, which, you know, it's a very bad recipe. If you're asking Precious Momoway to create off the dribble, he does. No, if you watch UE games, he does get the ball outside and he does try to create stuff. But, you know, he's still pretty raw. Still has a lot of skills to learn, and he can't do that. And that has resulted in, you know, very low efficiency. And it doesn't help that he's a bad free throw shooter as well, because he's number 1 in the league in free throw attempts, but he's also one of the worst free throw shooters in the league. So
inefficient talaga, inefficient.
Yeah,
no
pretty
other word.
Inefficient for Precious Momoway. And now that teams are loading up on Ray Remogat and are just targeting him and trying to stop him because he's really the engine that runs this team, UE is having a pretty hard time generating offense or getting any sort of playmaking from anyone else. Again, they have a ton of shooters. Ethan Galang, I mentioned the other Abdul Sawat and Welo, Lingo, Cruz Dumont, Alcantara, Gilbuena. They have a ton of shooters, but none have really shown to be capable of creating shots for others. And that's really the strength of Ray Remogat. And now that teams are, you know, they're trapping Remogat, they're double teaming Remogat, they're trying to get the ball out of his hands. Offense has been pretty hard for UE. And I don't expect it to get any better. They have to find someone on that roster who can actually play make. But so far, they've tried si MJ Langit, a backup guard, but it looks rough now. So it doesn't look good for UE, no? Yung lack of depth nila as yung in playmakers is showing. Okay. Number 5. I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in this.
Our number 5 team is Adamson. I think this team is the biggest surprise for me since the preseason. I had pretty low expectations from Adamson just because, not only because they lost Jerome Lastimosa, but they also lost Manlapas and Duwanga. I thought Duwanga had consideration as probably the second best FSA with Omar John. Manlapas was slated to really have a big year coming off those breakout games during the end of the season. But Adamson is a number 5 team, and they have an outside chance to really make the Final Four. If Ateneo and if LaSalle struggles to win consistently in the second round, then maybe, much like last season, Adamson can surprise one of these teams. Their last game of the first round was against NU, and they could have won that game had it not been for Kian Baclaan making 5 3-pointers in a 2 to 3 minute span. I think Adamson has a lot to look forward to in the second round. If they sneak in a few wins against the top four teams, then maybe they can make the final four. But I think for them to make the final four, they have to beat the three bottom teams. Definitely. What's good about Adamson is every game you see a different guy. I think si Erolon naman ang nagka-breakout game against NU. Si Montebon continues to impress despite being a rookie. I think si Cedric Manzano had his first bad game against that fast NU lineup. But things are looking great for Adamson. I'm not sure. Do they still have to get Jerome Lastimosa back? Would it be wise for them to just run it out and play this cast of players just so they could also prepare for season 87? Some of our subscribers mentioned that Jerome Lastimosa has to come back because I agree with them because I think that Jerome Lastimosa would raise the ceiling for Adamson. But you have to question, Jerome Lastimosa was not there during the latter part of the summer and the whole first round. So will it be a positive or a negative to this team when he comes back? That's the biggest question. I think Jerome Lastimosa's comeback is the biggest question for Adamson right now. But they are a team that has surprised a lot, and I'm not ruling them out. They can still fight for that final four slot. Let's see during the second round. Gab.
Okay, I think this is our first disagreement, Maui. Depending on who's your number 4, but I would actually have LaSalle at number 5. I think Adamson has looked way better than LaSalle, especially in the latter part of that first round. Despite them losing a big tampak sila sa LaSalle, diba? But they have played better basketball than LaSalle, more organized. They've executed. They just don't have a great player to turn to, but they do have a lot of good players. I've said this before, but they've looked more impressive to me than LaSalle. And I would actually have LaSalle at number 5. And I guess we'll talk about LaSalle in a few minutes. Adamson has lost very close games. I think they have here's my hot take. I think they're going to be number 4 at the end of the season. Honestly, despite the hype surrounding LaSalle, I have no confidence right now that they can pull it together. They're just so inconsistent. And Adamson has actually been more consistent than them. And they've played consistently, the same style. They've run plays. They're organized and they're coached really well by Gilbert Lau and Nash Racela. So I'm interested, Maui. Who's your number 4?
You mentioned LaSalle, so I'm putting LaSalle at number 4. The main reason I'm putting LaSalle at number 4 at the end of the first round is because they got 4-3, but they could have easily been 6-1 to end the first round. But Gab, you mentioned yung main observation natin with LaSalle has been consistency. I think aside from consistency, you also mentioned during our previous episodes, LaSalle struggles to execute in the half court. I think it's proven that when LaSalle's offense is humming, they're a very scary team. They can score in bunches. They can beat you. They can get 23-0 runs against you. I think Adamson was... Am I right, Gab? Adamson was the team that suffered
they
that
were the
fate.
victim.
Yeah, LaSalle can go on 23-0 runs, but LaSalle can also go on a 3-point quarter, similar to how they did against UP. So I think we can all agree that LaSalle has been probably the most inconsistent team this season. Much like last season, they have looked like a championship contender, but at the same time, they've also looked at they've also looked like a non-Final Four contender also. That's crazy. How can you say that a team is a championship contender when they can also be a team that cannot make the Final Four? And it's shown just because of LaSalle's inconsistencies. Kevin Kiambao is having the season of his life. He's the number 1 contender based on the metrics of the UAAP. I wouldn't be surprised if he did run away with this. But unfortunately, as many of our subscribers and as many of the fans have pointed out, Kevin Kyombao sometimes looks lost on the offensive end. I think this is a byproduct of his conversion from a big man to really a wing player to a playmaker. Definitely, I can see that Kevin Kyombao has a bright future ahead of him. But with the ongoing inconsistencies in LaSalle, you gotta question if they will make the Final Four. Definitely, their game against Adamson will be a much highly contested match. But LaSalle has lost to the top three teams. They have lost to NU, Ateneo, and UP.
UP.
So definitely, I would still agree that when they face other opponents who lack the type of talent that they put on the court, they still end up winning. But if they end up losing against one of the bottom four teams in the second round, then Adamson can probably steal the fourth slot from them heading into the Final Four. Much like what happened last season, if you guys remember, Adamson also sneaked into the Final Four with LaSalle falling out of contention. So yeah, there are definitely good things about LaSalle, but there are definitely also bad things about LaSalle. And I think it's justified that they are ranked at number 4 by me and probably Gab at number 5, just because we don't see them as that championship contender that we were predicting during the off-season.
This LaSalle team, ever since last season, is the most frustrating team I've ever had the mispleasure to watch in the UAAP. They have so much talent, but their highs are so high and their lows are so low.
Yeah.
Diba?
Exactly.
Yun yung kakaloka sa LaSalle eh.
Yeah.
In the preseason, we were all hyped for LaSalle. I think LaSallians were hyped for their own team. Like, they look unstoppable. Kevin Kyombao scoring at will. Evan Neri running the show. And then, you come UAAP season, you see their weaknesses. And they are glaring weaknesses. Again, Adamson has been more consistent. I would put them at number 4 despite them having a 3-4 record compared to LaSalle's 4-3 record. I do think their consistency can lead to growth. And versus LaSalle, it's just a pendulum. It's just, I don't know where they're going to be from one possession to another. Their win against UE, actually, it was more highs, but there are also a lot of lows. They turned the ball over so much. Again, we've said this over and over again. They can't execute in the half court. Nagmamadali sila. And you alluded to Kyombao looking lost. Not just lost. I think sometimes he's forcing it. Yeah. Forcing it too much. Diba? This team is pretty frustrating talaga. And I'm sure a lot of LaSallians are frustrated as well.
Alam mo naman,
some are calling for Coach Topex's head. They want him gone. Oh my goodness.
That, I think, is ludicrous. That's another topic we can discuss in the future, but I think that's crazy.
Yep. I think it's crazy too. You gotta give a more leeway than that. But yeah, a lot of frustrations surrounding this LaSalle team. If they had a week siguro to prepare for the second round, maybe they can fix their faults. They can make some adjustments, but it's a short turnaround. Before the second round, we'll be having games tomorrow, and if we see if I see another up and down LaSalle game, ako talaga mawawala na ako ng confidence na makapasok sila sa Final Four. Sobrang down na yung confidence sa kanila, Maui eh. As in, nawawalan na talaga ako ng tiwala sa kanila. They're just so frustrating. Okay. Yeah.
Grabe yung highs and lows.
Yep.
Yeah, our number 3 team is, maybe people will get mad at me. Maybe they'll say I'm still pessimistic. But I'm quite the opposite. My number 3 team is my alma mater, the Ateneo Blue Eagles. I think this is justified them at number 3 just because they also beat UP. It's been an up and down season by Ateneo. They ended the first round at 4-3 with victories against LaSalle and UP. but also losing to FEU in a nail biter. I think Ateneo, much like Salle, could have easily ended the first round at 6-1. With NU, the only
Agree.
team that they really didn't have a chance to beat. But I think what we can look forward to is what can happen for Ateneo in the second round. For La Salle, it's different. We see their glaring weaknesses, and we don't see quote unquote light at the end of the tunnel. With Ateneo, it's quite the opposite. People are now jubilant. People are now optimistic that Ateneo can still surprise this season and make the finals. I think Shoot First Pod, shout out to the Shoot First community. They did a poll on who they think will make it the finals, and 50% of the people said that Ateneo and UP will meet again in the finals. And I think that's justified. Ateneo has that ceiling. I think them defeating UP with that type of victory really showcased the ceiling of Ateneo this season. They can beat anyone, definitely. They can also lose to anyone. That's the sad part. If they don't play, if they don't play, if they don't execute better, that's the problem with Ateneo. I think it's really based on the system. If they execute the system right, then they can really compete with anyone. If they don't get their sets right, then they can easily also lose to other people. They had a nail biter loss against FEU. They almost lost to UE also. The game against Adamson was also an overtime game. So Ateneo has had 3 overtime games in the first round. Imagine that. I can't even remember the last time Ateneo had this many overtime games since I've watched the UAAP 20 years na. Maybe during the time of JC Intal, I think yung season 2006, they had a lot of overtime games and nail biters.
Yeah,
but
they did.
yeah, but this is a different Ateneo team from the Ateneo team we saw against NU nung game 1. Coach Tab again he's marvelous. If you watched the UP game, which definitely most of our subscribers did, you saw Ateneo running a lot of new sets. You saw Mason Amos breaking out. Congratulations to Mason for getting the Player of the Week for the UAAP this past week. So you see Ateneo, there are players that are starting to break out. There are players, the rotation is starting to solidify. Coach Tab ran a tighter rotation against UP with Bongo not getting that much minutes. Gab Gomez, which I think should play more minutes, didn't get minutes. Jason Credo, we also have to give him a shout out. If you don't look at the stat sheet, if you don't look at his shooting, he definitely broke out nung game against UP. You can see the confidence building up for this team. And I think that bodes well for Ateneo coming into the second round. It would have been a back-to-back game against UP this Wednesday, but I think both teams requested to move it to Sunday. So it's going to be Ateneo against FPU to start the second round for Ateneo. Definitely a must-win game for Ateneo to also get momentum going into the Sunday with the rematch against UP. Yeah, but I think Ateneo has really solidified themselves. You can argue that if NU wasn't able to close out the game against Adamson, I could have put Ateneo at number 2 right now. And probably Adamson at number 4 also. But yeah, I guess that's the first round of the UAAP for you. We had 6 overtime games and Ateneo had 3 of them. So anything could have happened. So we'll see in the second round if they can build up on the momentum that they got against that momentous win against UP last Sunday. Gab.
Yeah. What's going to be interesting to me in the second round for Ateneo Mau is can they climb to number 2? That twice to beat advantage again. It's going to be big. We're going to have a Final Four because UP suffered a loss, and I think they have to go for that second spot. As it stands right now, beating NU or UP twice in the Final Four is gonna be hella tough.
Yes, definitely.
I think they have to go for that twice to be advantage. They can't afford. Coach Tab, I know you like to experiment. you've been experimenting the whole first round. The second round is not the time to experiment, Coach Tab. I'm a big fan of yours, but please don't experiment in the second round.
Time
We
to go
need that
all
twice to
in.
beat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
time to
time
go
to
all
go
in, I
all
think.
in. Time to push all the chips, the center of the table. It's time. We can't afford to be number 3 or number 4. If ever we're gonna make the final 4, we cannot. It's gonna be a tall task talaga. Especially if we're number 4 and we're beating
Yeah.
UP twice.
Tsaka,
Oh, hell no.
Tsaka to
Oh,
add lang, Gab, much like the chances of FEU and UE to make it to the Final Four, historically speaking, the magic number to make it as a number 2 seed in the Final Four in the UAAP is usually 9 wins and 5 losses. Ateneo has 3 now. So much like UE and much like FEU, if they want to make it to the as the second seed, then they have to win 6 out of the 7 games. They have to win against FEU definitely this Wednesday. Then maybe if they can
tomorrow.
sneak tomorrow, if they can sneak in a win against UP, then maybe that would be in the table. I think they have to go all in immediately, not during the middle of the second round. I was talking to my sister and dad. Yes, Ateneo has shown that they can beat anybody, but beating a team 2 times with the caliber of UP and NU's lineup is definitely not something that you want going into the Final Four. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, and I assume we have the same number 2. Who's your number 2?
NU is number 2. Yeah, wait,
All
sorry.
right.
NU is definitely number 2 and UP is still number 1. So that's the power rankings. I think it's justified that NU is number 2. I think UP ended the first round as the best offensive and defensive team based on the advanced stats. I have to shout out later yung name ng guy that has been compiling the advanced stats. Ryan Alba is
Yeah,
now
you
with you.
do.
Yeah, we have to shout him out. I have to check sa Twitter ko. But si Ryan Alba used to be the one that provided us with advanced stats, different metrics, and I think UP having been dominant during the first round, they have the best offense and the best defense. It's just that I think yung what happened during the latter part of the first round is that they're starting to show cracks in both their offense and defense. They seem like a team that is now beatable. This is a lot different from our views on them during the early part of the season when they look scary and indestructible. I think Ateneo, NU showed us the first crack in UP, and then Salle gave them another scare, and then I think FEU, right?
FEU.
FEU almost beat them during the first round. With UP rallying lang to win the game. I think CJ Cancino and Coach Gold mentioned that they should stop playing like this. If they want to be the top contender, if they want to really win the championship, they have to play with more. They have to want to win more. They have to be better. They can't be inconsistent. They have to be consistently good, consistently dominant. But yeah, despite all that, I think UP is still the number 1 in the power rankings. Nothing against NU, but NU has also been struggling, quote unquote. They have had closer games. That's what's exciting with the UAAP right now. The standings really don't reflect the type of games that we've been having during the first round. Anything you want to add, Gab?
Everything is must watch,
Yeah.
Maui. I think all of our subscribers, those who follow the UAP, agree every game is must watch. You never know. You never know talaga.
You never
Eh,
know. Yeah.
yeah, and ako just to comment again, I agree with this. Again, our only difference in these power rankings is I would have Adamson at number 4 and Lasal at number 5. But yeah, UP, despite the loss to Ateneo, hey, they still played really well against Ateneo, despite the loss. They almost won in regulation, for goodness sake. They could have easily won that if Joe Obasa had not blocked yung JD Kagulangan shot at the end of regulation. Yeah, they're still stacked with talent. I expect them to perform better on Sunday. Um, Again, despite the win by
Another
Ateneo
nail
last
biter, please.
Sunday. Yes.
Ay, Jack Ares nga,
Despite the
sabi ng
win,
dad ko.
despite the win by Ateneo against UP, I am still not optimistic about Ateneo's chances to beat them again. I do think Coach Gold and his coaching staff are gonna make adjustments. I do think they're gonna come out hungrier. They're gonna come out pissed that they lost to Ateneo. So I expect them to first tomorrow. I expect them to play really well and play like their old dominant self. And I think they have a good chance to beat Ateneo on Sunday. For NU, um, yeah, man, they've just been consistently good.
Yeah.
Later in my MVP rankings, I'm gonna talk about someone I think who's been really good in the past few games. But yeah, all of their sa NU rin eh, while you have guys like Baklaan and Figueroa and Omar Jan who consistently contribute, you never know when someone else might pop off, because that's how Coach Jeff Napa runs this team. No, just equal opportunity offense, ride the hot hand. He's not afraid to yank his starters. He's not afraid to bench his star players, quote unquote star players. He's gonna he's gonna bench you if you make a mistake or you play or you don't play the way he wants you to play. And you defensively has looked amazing, except for that UP game. No, all of their games they've looked impressive on defense, and that's their calling card. It's the offense that's a bit of a question mark for them, but they have more weapons. Don Lim, I think, has been impressive. We don't talk about him much now in the season because there's Baklaan and Steve Nash there, but as a shooter, as a pull-up guy, a guy who could pull up from mid-range as well, I've been really impressed with Don Lim. And Humamoy actually in these past two games has really showed some flashes. Diba? He wasn't getting minutes in the middle
Yeah.
of the first round, but towards the end, you can see that there's a lot of talent in Reinhard Humamoy. And my boy, PJ Palachelo, uh, he's continuing to impress despite the being just a backup to Omar John. If you look at the statistics, he's up there in rebounds. He's up there in field goal percentage. He's up there in blocks. He's just a really good player, and I do hope that he shines more in the second round. So, yeah, ako not arguing much with these power rankings. Again, just the difference is the Adamson and Salle thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
to our subscribers, comment down below what do you think about these power rankings? Do you agree or disagree? Would you have another team last? Would you have another team at number two? Would you have NU at number one? I mean, you could make an argument. You
Yeah,
could.
you could, despite them losing to UP. Yeah.
Yep. So
We
comment down below.
actually,
Oh,
yeah,
go,
Gab,
Maui.
we actually ended up with my power rankings. I didn't mean to. This was not. I didn't make it so that it would end up the same as the standings of the first round, but it did. Unfortunately, I think most of it was justified, naman. But it's
Yeah.
not just because of the standings. Really, it's really how the teams have been performing, in my
Yeah.
opinion, so far. It's just a coincidence.
I
It
think
ended up that way.
Yeah, I think you've explained it yung very well, Maui. And I think we've talked about it yung very well. But now, it's time to move on to PoloGab's Not Just Stats MVP
Yeah.
rankings. And if you're not familiar with this, yes, you will see a lot of my face in these slides. My fiance made these slides. Shout out to you, Iya.
Thank you,
I
Ia,
love you.
for the slide.
Uh, Thank you for making these slides for me. But yeah, you will see a lot of my face here because she used our prenup
Yeah.
pictures for this. So this is our my not just stats MVP
Still
ranking.
gets
So it's
me. The picture still gets me, even the second time around.
oh my god. Oh, thank you, Iya. And also not thank you. So these again yung Polo Gabs, not top five, not just stats MVP candidates. And we don't just base this on statistical points, although you will see. So at number one, still uncontested for number one, I think it still has to be Malik Diouf. And I don't think you'll find much of an argument to put anyone else at number one other than Malik Diouf.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
His team UP has been the most dominant team in the UAP. They're 6-1. When he has a bad game,
It's
quote
still a good
unquote
game
bad game, it's still a good game.
for other
Like
people, not him.
take take that last game against Ateneo. He played only 26 minutes. It looked like he didn't do much. But you look at the box score. He had 13 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks. So just let me run you down the numbers, Maui. He's averaging 13 points a game, 14 rebounds a game, which is second in the UAP, just behind Precious Momoway.
Momoy.
One assist, one steal, and nearly 2 blocks a game, which is third in the UAP. And he's hella efficient too, Maui. Yung nagulat ako sa stats eh.
Free throws
He's
niya. Crazy.
shooting 70%
Yeah.
at the line, which is number one in terms of foreign student athletes and even centers. He's number one in free throw percentage, shooting an insane 57% from the field. He doesn't shoot three, so I won't count that. What he does, but he's only made I think 1 or 2 in the season.
Not
And he's
much
second,
three. Yeah.
yeah, and he's second currently in statistical points, right behind Kevin Kiambao at 78.8. So that's statistical points. But the eye test, the stats, everything backs up Malik Diouf as right now the number one MVP candidate in my rankings. Any comments, Maui?
Yeah, I think definitely no argument with Malik Diouf. I think we called this naman nung off-season. I was just being crazy when I said Kai Balungay was a dark horse candidate. But yeah, I mentioned him as a dark horse candidate. But really, it's been Malik all the way. Malik, I don't think you can argue that UP has been the most dominant team this past season. Despite losing to Ateneo, they still remain that team. Remember, they lost it in overtime to Ateneo team that scored 98 points. It's not every
99.
day. 99 points. Not every day you get a team that hot. I just think that Ateneo really just out-executed them, especially in overtime. They could have easily won that game. If you watch yung game nung Sunday, they had the ball they had the possession probably nung last 2 minutes, probably 90% of the time. So it was crazy that they didn't close it out. Unfortunately for them, Ateneo just out-executed them in overtime. They say law of averages. Ateneo probably scored 6 points in their first 2 overtime losses. Then they scored 19 when they beat UP. So UP could have easily been 7-0. I think no argument that Malik Diouf should really be the top contender, in my opinion. By the way, I just want to give a shout out to Guy also. I was mentioning a while ago about stats. If you guys are interested in seeing advanced stats, check out RC on Instagram. His Instagram handle is Smacker Smashbot. Smacker Smashbot. So I repeat, Smacker Smashbot. He posts, he compiles stats and does the advanced stats. So it's good to also look at these metrics. I think UP and Ateneo are two teams known and open using advanced metrics as part of their strategy. Oh, go ahead, Gab. Who's
Talk
your
about
number 2?
wait. Talk about someone has a lot of time and two is hella passionate about compiling stats. But thank you, sir or ma'am, whoever you are.
Sir, he's a sir.
Oh, he's
I
a
think-
sir. He's a sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. You are isa kang bayani for doing this, and I do look at these stats pretty often. So thank you, especially in compiling this list. So at number 2, I think you had him at number 2 in our first edition of these rankings, Maui. I have Kevin Kiambao at number 2. Statistics wise, he's second in the UAAP in scoring at nearly 17 points per game, just right behind, I think, Nick Caballero,
Yeah, Caballero.
who's averaging almost 20 points a game. He's fourth in rebounds, almost 10 rebounds a game, 5 assists, which is fifth in the UAAP. For a guy who's 6'4", 6'5", that is crazy. And he's lumped in with a bunch of guards, and he's the only tall guy there. That is crazy. 1 steal and almost 1 block a game. He does average a lot, almost 3 turnovers a game, because I think if you watch any of Salle games, you'll know why he averages 3 turnovers a game. He does make a lot of erratic passes. Perhaps the knock on him is that he's pretty inefficient. He's only at 35% from the field, 60% from the line. He is leading the league in 3 points in 3 pointers made and 3 points made per game at 2.7 threes a game and 19 threes total, which is like four or three more than the next guy, which is crazy again because he's 6'4" and he's 6'4" slash 6'5" on 33% shooting, so it's not that bad. And he's first currently in the MVP in the UAAP's yung MVP race in terms of statistical points at 85.4 statistical points. So imagine that. Malik Diouf, who has been compiling stats crazily in the first round, Kevin Kiambao 7 more statistical points than Malik Diouf.
Dahil sa assist yan. Yung
Yep.
yung formula ng UAAP. The crazy formula.
Probably. But yeah, just the numbers alone, I think, can put Kevin Kiambao here. The record perhaps does not support it. Because yung LaSalle, as we've said earlier, they're really high, then they're really low. And Kevin Kiambao is an example of that. He does rush things a bit, in my opinion. He does look lost at times. Pinipilit niya at times. And I do wish that he'll slow down a bit in the second round, perhaps leading to better efficiency, perhaps leading to more efficient shots for LaSalle. But yeah, Maui, what do you think of Kevin Kiambao at number 2?
Yeah, I think I've said enough nung previous episode. I think Kevin Kiambao is really the real deal. I think he has really, for me, she's one of the scariest players in the UAAP this season. You just know that whether he scores or not, he's gonna have a big game. He's gonna have a big impact on the game, especially on the offensive end. I think UGAB said it best. Kevin Kiambao has to relax and probably stabilize in the second round if he wants LaSalle to make it to the Final Four. I think he has all the tools. I think it's really a byproduct of him just adjusting to his new role, his new physique, his added offensive arsenal. I think this guy is very scary. His ceiling is very scary, and I don't think he will be in the UAAP next season. Scouts from Japan, scouts from Korea is definitely watching this guy. He is having a hell of a season. I just think he probably has to calm down, especially in the crunch time. And we mentioned kanina, LaSalle could have easily been 6-1. They had a lot of close games also. So yeah, I think this is justified. Kevin Kiambao has looked like the best player on the court on most occasions.
All right. And at number 3, I don't know if this will be a surprise to you, Maui, but at number 3, I do have Jake Figueroa at number 3. And from your expression, I think you're surprised. So let me give my reasons for having Jake Figueroa at number 3. One, he is the leading scorer in NU at 11.8 points per game, nearly 8 rebounds a game. Yung nearly 2 assists a game. 49% from the field, which is awesome for a guy who plays mostly on the perimeter. He does not shoot it well from 3. Despite our discussions in the preseason that he has to shoot better, he's only around 16% from 3. But he's shooting 75% from the line. And this is one guy whose statistical points maybe do not support his case for being in these rankings because he's only 11th in terms of statistical points. And again, this is more of a byproduct of how NU plays. Again, equal opportunity offense, very deep rotation, very short stints on the floor. You don't see Jeff Napa putting players on the floor for long stretches. He usually subs players in and out of the game. I think in one game when in the Adamson game when Adamson scored 10 straight points and they were 0, he subbed out the entire starting 5 and put in a new 5. No, again, the stats don't support any NU player actually being in these rankings. To be honest, and if you watched our first version of these rankings, I didn't have any NU player here, even if they were number two in the standings, just because no one really piled up stats in their team. That was a problem. But now Jake Figueroa, especially with his recent performances, I think has separated himself from the rest of the NU squad. You could argue and put Kian Baklan here. I would not have much of an argument to against that. But I do think Jake Figueroa plays a very important role for this team. One, I think he's just a menace on defense. He can guard 1 through 4. Five now, you not so much, but 1 through 4 he can. He's quick on his feet. He uses his hands pretty well. He's pretty strong. Just watch this guy play on defense and grind on defense. He's so good on defensive end. And on offense, he's taken more of that playmaker role. Again, averaging 12 points a game for this NU team, which shares the ball consistently and has a ton of guys who can make shots. It's, I think, pretty awesome for me. And I think he's had 3 straight double doubles already. Crazy.
Breaking out,
This
guys.
guy is
Breaking out.
what, 6'2", 6'3", and he's grabbing rebounds like that with teammates like Omar John and PJ Palacelo and Malonzo and Manansala, and he can grab double-digit rebounds a game. I think is pretty impressive. And again, NU's record, they're 6-1. They're winning, and they're winning sort of convincingly. They're playing really well, and I just had to have an NU player here, and I think it's Jake Figueroa. Maui, your face said you were surprised. Why are you surprised?
Uh, I think it's hard to put an MVP sa NU team because every game, everyone is a different guy really contributing to them. I think it's the only thing constant in NU is that Kian Baclaan is probably their first option. But Jake Figueroa has really been a welcome surprise. I think Gab, I called him as one of my breakout players this season. I really like how he played nung Phil Oil. It showed a different dynamic yung game niya has really improved. Despite shooting 16%, I think teams that have scouted him he's shown teams that he can hit that shot. That's a big thing for me. I think that has given him opportunity to really have better have closeouts on most of his 3 pointers and given him opportunity to drive to the basket more.
Good
He's
point.
having,
Good point.
I think he's having a season similar to Mac Bello has had with FEU. I think he's a do-it-all guy for NU, and I can't fault you for putting him in the MVP rankings. I love this guy, but I think I would have probably ranked other people higher than him. But I think Jake Figueroa is rising in the ranks. Imagine if NU becomes a top-seeded team. Then maybe Gab's not just stats MVP candidates could be Jake Figueroa as the number one. He has racked up stats these past 3 games. You mentioned him probably having 3 straight double-doubles. And everyone is already put on notice. I think Jake Figueroa won Player of the Week before Mason Amos. He's making a name for himself, and I think he has definitely solidified his chances to make it to the pros. This is what we preached nung off-season. We needed NU to get somebody to replace John Lloyd Clemente, and Figueroa's definitely stepped up. We needed guys outside of Steve Nash to create offense, and Figueroa stepped up into the plate. So I think it's justified that he's in the top 5, but I'll look at your number 4 and number 5. Maybe I could have ranked somebody higher.
Okay. Sige. We can name some snubs later.
Yeah.
But at number 4, I do have Evanele at number 4. Now, you might question why do I have 2 LaSalle players here despite my obvious hindi naman disdain but frustration for LaSalle in our power rankings earlier. But he does pile up a ton of stats. And he's third currently in statistical points in the MVP race of the UAAP. He's averaging 12 points per game, 6 assists per game, 6.5 rebounds a game. Evanele, that surprised me. He's second in assists, as I said, at 6 a game, nearly 2 steals again. But just like Kevin Kiambao, he does turn the ball over a lot, over 3 turnovers a game. Again, inefficient, shooting 35% from the field, 22% from three. Well, I guess he does attempt a lot, Eh, but he's 84% at the line, and and as I said, he's currently third in the statistical points race. The game against UP showed how
How
valuable,
valuable? Yeah, I agree. How
yes,
valuable Evanelli is
how
when they
valuable
struggle, they really need him.
Evanelli. Exactly. That third quarter against UP for LaSalle was horrible, and that really that was an example of how much they need Evanelli. And yun pa lang, I think it's a pretty good argument for having him here. The knock on him, similar to Kevin Kiambao, is LaSalle is 4-3. They've lost 3 games against the top teams. But it's these two guys who are carrying the load for LaSalle, Kevin Kiambao and Evanele. And yeah, I don't think you have much of an argument. You could put him at number 3, but again, I gave Jake Figueroa the bump just because of NU's better record. And yeah, Maui, what do you think about Evanele at number 4?
Yeah, I think justified naman to put Nelly on the top of the list. I think the statistics back it up. The eye test also shows how horrendous LaSalle could be without him. I think LaSalle's record is 4-3. We have two players in the top five, and I think it's justified. You might say I'm crazy, but I'm an Atenean, and I say that despite having that rivalry with LaSalle. LaSalle has looked like a two-man team, in my opinion, this season. Mike Phillips has had very inconsistent games this season. CJ Austria hasn't been consistent. That
Uy,
consistent
may
fourth
Waki
guy.
Manuel, Mau. May
Yeah,
Waki Manuel.
I was gonna mention Joaquin Manuel has been better definitely this season, but has still not been that fourth option or third option you can say for LaSalle. I think LaSalle would look lost without both Kambao or Nelly. One of them not being in the lineup
They did,
showed.
Mau. They did look
Yeah,
lost.
yeah,
Remember that UP
exactly.
game?
Exactly. Look at what happened to LaSalle when Kambao was in foul trouble and Evan Nelly was not in the game. They scored 3 points in a quarter. They won all 3 quarters with Kambao in the game, but they lost the third quarter so much that they lost the game. So I think it's justified that Evan Nelly is in the top five. I would argue that a player much like LJ Gonzalez we could also consider him, but they're at 2-5. If they won the game against UST, then probably we
Winning
could put
counts,
him
bro. Winning
winning.
counts.
Definitely MVP. When you talk about MVP, you have to give it to a winner. It should count. It should be one of the top metrics in my opinion. But if LaSalle continues to rack up losses, maybe yung 2 at 4 natin will not be in the top 5 anymore.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. But right now they're still in contention for the final four. The number 2 seed or the number 1 seed is still within reach. They just have to beat the top teams. The problem with LaSalle is really yung inconsistency nga nila, as we mentioned. But they beat 4 of the other teams that are not in the top 4. So that still counts for something. So yeah, I agree. Definitely Evan Nelly should be part of the top 5 MVP contenders.
Would you have him over Jake Figueroa at number 3?
I would say I would put Figueroa still at number 3. I think and you deserve credit. And you deserves credit. Despite yung breakout game also ni Kian Baclan, I think one of his best scoring games yung game niya against Adamson. I think Figueroa still been that consistent presence. He has played really well in his role. It's reflected also that when the UAAP gave him the player of the week over other players, I think it's justified that Figueroa is the list. One could argue that he could even be number 2 above Cambao because of their record. If you're talking about team success, I think this guy is really important to NU. Without him, we would probably have an inconsistent forward for NU. I think Manansala and Patrick Yu is still probably a year away from being a Jake Figueroa type of guy. Yeah.
All right. At number 5, call me a homer, but I have Chris Kuhn at number 5. Maybe it's recency bias, but I have been very impressed by Chris Kuhn these past 2 games. Again, watch our recap video on the Ateneo UP game. Me and Maui called him the guy for Ateneo, and he's really the guy. Now, I could have put Kai Balungay here. Yes, he has more statistical points actually than Chris Kuhn. But they're about the same statistics wise. If you look at the stats, the numbers are eerily similar. But if you look at the way they play, you look at who makes plays and who's the guy who who organizes everything for this Blue Eagle team. It's this guy. It's Chris Kuhn. Uh, he's the guy tasked to handle the second most important yung defensive assignment yung next to Sean Kiteves. He's now the secondary ball handler in that lineup. He's now the guy you go to when you need the bucket for Ateneo. And just look at his offensive bag against UP. Shooting step back threes, spot up threes, uh, mid-range pull-ups, driving to the basket, mostly to the left, but he's driving to the basket, getting to the free throw line and drawing fouls, finishing and drawing fouls. That's an underrated part of his game. He's gotten a lot stronger this season. I think this guy is hella important to Ateneo. And with the win they had against UP and the promise that they are now showing and possibly being a finals contender, I think you have to have Chris Kuhn here at number 5. But just let me down the numbers again. This is something that the statistical points will not support. He's only 14th in the points race, but he's averaging 12 points a game, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. Doesn't average nearly as much steals or blocks, but you give him that. But he's 1.23s on 32% from the 3-point line, and he's 74% from the free throw line. Again, just look at the eye test and how important he is to Ateneo and how he's been performing in these past few games for Ateneo. And I think you'd find yourself pretty far yung having a difficult time putting Chris Kuhn out of the MVP race. Maui, your thoughts?
Yeah,
I
I have to agree. It might be a homer pick for us, but I have to agree. Definitely Chris Kuhn is the guy you put in the top 5, not Balungay, not Emos. As much as I love Emos, Emos was the player of the week. I thought it should have been Kuhn, to be honest. Without Kuhn's play during this last few games, you would think that Ateneo would really struggle. I think yung timing, yung timing ng Ateneo, when we were saying the timing, yung timing that we think that Ateneo is turning the corner happened not coincidentally, but really when Kuhn started to figure things out this season. I think both of the wins against UP and Salle were big wins for Ateneo. In both of those games, you see Kuhn on the top of the scoring list. I think Kuhn has been supremely underrated as the most valuable player when it comes to Ateneo. I think this guy is more valuable than Balungay or Amos this season. Both of those guys kasi are interchangeable. You can play Amos more minutes, you can play Balungay more minutes, but you can't find another Chris Kuhn for Ateneo. There's no other guy who can create as efficiently as Chris Kuhn for Ateneo. I think it's justified that we put him in the MVP race. And what's most impressive for me, Ateneo is a team that turns the ball over a ton of this season. I think if you would look at the stats, if you would look at the stat sheet, they are one of the top teams that turn over the ball. Despite that, the guy that's having the most usage from Ateneo the past 2 games has 0 turnovers in 60 minutes of action. That's Chris Kuhn. He has 0 turnovers.
I did put it here. He's averaging 1 turnover a game. 1.
Yeah. He's averaging 1 turnover a game, and he's probably the guy that's getting the most usage in the Ateneo lineup. I think it's been impressive. The experiment by Coach Tab to make Chris Kuhn as point guard the previous season has definitely paid dividends for Ateneo. I think Ateneo's ceiling will really depend on Chris Kuhn. If Chris Kuhn performs like he did against UST and UP and LaSalle consistently, then Ateneo is a very dangerous team. They are definitely title contenders if he continues to play like this. So yeah, I have to agree. If you want to put somebody from Ateneo in the top 5 list, definitely it should be Chris Kuhn.
Just to add on that added strength that he's put on in the off season, if you look at the game against UP, he was driving and he was moving Alarcon and Cancino out of the way, and even Torres. That's how strong he's become. He's looked a lot bigger than most players that are put on him. He's bulked up, and it's helped him really with his finishing, with his post ups. Again, they ran a lot of post ups in the game on Sunday. And yeah, I've been very impressed with Chris Kuhn. And like you, Maui, I'm hoping that he becomes more consistent. But let's talk about some subs quickly. We're going past an hour already. Who do you think were some snubs that I missed here?
I think definitely for NU, si Kian Baclahan still has to be considered. I think he's still their number one option on the offensive end. Sa UE kasi it's hard. We put two players. I think we put two players from them during the previews.
Yeah,
not
si
just
Precious
that.
and si Ray Remogat.
Yeah, but things have already turned. They're now 2-5. 2-5, right? They're 2-5, I think,
Yeah,
or 3
and
and
two and
4
five.
at best. 2-5. So we can't give players who don't. We can't give players. We can't put players here if their team is not winning. We put a big premium in winning. Definitely, it's also one of the
And their
reasons
numbers
why.
have not been as impressive, Maui, in the past few
Yes,
games,
yes,
especially si
definitely.
Momoway.
Especially si Momo Way has not been that impressive outside of the consistent inefficiency. But I think our list justifies that we value winning. Chris Kuhn making the list definitely shows we value winning. I mentioned kanina si LJ Gonzalez, probably if they won against UST, definitely should be part of the conversation. But they didn't win, so they're 2-5. They're probably not gonna make the final four. If they make it to the final four, then probably he should be part of the conversation. But those are probably my snubs.
One other guy I do like to mention in our past edition of these rankings, I did put Francis Lopez at number 2. He was having an awesome season up until that one. I think that was 3 games to the season. But now, he's had a string of pretty bad games. He hasn't racked up enough numbers in the past few games, actually. So I dropped him out of these rankings. His game against Ateneo and his game against LaSalle both were subpar. Uh, and I think if he continues to play like this, you can see someone like Mark Belmonte still steal minutes away from
Yeah,
Francis Lopez.
definitely.
So yeah, if for UP fans, if you're wondering why I didn't put Francis Lopez here, just look at his stats in the past few games. I think you'd find that they have been very pedestrian. So yeah, so those are my top 5 MVP candidates. Again, just like in our power rankings, let us know what do you think. Who do you think should be here? Do you think I should mix up? Would you have Kevin Kiambao at 3 and then Jake Figueroa at 2? Like what Maui said, will you have Chris Kuhn higher? Would you even have Kai Balungay yung in this list? So let us know. Once again, thank you for watching. It's UAAP game day tomorrow. 4 games again,
Games
guys.
again.
My
4 games again.
goodness. We'll try to talk about it in the evening. Let's see if we still have the bandwidth, Maui. I don't think Sammy's gonna make it tomorrow, so it's just gonna be the two of us. But let's see if we have crazy games, we might just record na rekta agad tapos bahala na yung pagod natin. Pero for you guys, we'll be here to talk about the games. And for now, from Gab and Maui, thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
watching.
Thank
Don't
you.
forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.